In this tutorial, I'm going to teach how to do a watercolor painting. The painting will be of flowers and leaves, and it's a more spontaneous and an abstract painting, so we will not be doing any sketching for this painting. I'll start the painting with Quinacridone Rose and Winsor Red. And I'm also going to mix my ultramarine blue into the Quinacridone Rose in order to make a beautiful purple. I will start off with red. We're going to do a peony flower. So for that, we'll start with red and start doing the petals in the center. And this flower is looking upward so that you'll have a lot of tiny little petals in the center. And as you can see, they go from center really being really small, and then as they come to the corners, they get a little bigger. And then you want the consistency of the water to be a little bit more fluid so that you can mix colors easily within each petal. Like you will see here, I'm dropping different colors in the red, and they blend with each other nicely because it's a little bit more wet inside the petal, and so it gives you a beautiful texture. And I'm going to start adding a little bit bigger petals as you go to the sides. But first in the center, like you can see, I'm doing small little petals, and yes, the flower is tilted a little bit and facing upwards. And now you're gonna do the sides of the petal, the bottom corners, and they're gonna be a little bit bigger petals, and you can see how the curves are coming from the side into the center, and the petal colors are going to be a little bit lighter as well. And then I'm adding a little bit of yellow in the center to show the pollen. And if you have any excess water, which is too much, you can always take it off. And then I'm adding a little bit of purple petals up on the top. And this gives a little bit of interesting texture for the flower. And then I'm proceeding to do another small little flower and a couple of buds. And the shapes of the buds are going to be pretty round and small in size. And I want to place them in different portions of the paper just so there's a little bit more balance of color across the painting. So I did two flowers facing away from each other. There's one facing down, so the yellow pollen will be also on the tips, as you can see. And then there's a bud on the bottom right corner. And this flower on the left side, I'm trying to add a few more petals because it's in the process of blossoming. And it's always interesting if in a painting you add flowers which are in different phases of blossoming, like one which is fully blossomed, one which is a little bit open, and then you have others which are buds. And now I'm starting to do my greens. For my greens, I'm going to mix ultramarine blue with cad yellow medium. And first I'm going to do stems. The stems are going to be connecting to the center of the flower, and then the leaves, we're going to do these leaves with single strokes. Like max you will do 2 or 3 strokes for each leaf. So you fill your brush with pretty good amount of color, and then you always have to try and keep 2 or 3 different shades of green mixed in your palette so that you end up with interesting colors and not just one color of green. So you can see you start off with putting the brush tip on the paper, and then you put a little bit of pressure and which spreads the bristles out, and then when you go to the corner you lift the brush up, and so you get a sharp corner like that. And sometimes to give a nice tip you have to use the tip of your brush, so you press the brush down and see how it spreads the bristles, and then it gives you a natural shape of leaf. There you go, kind of like that. And each leaf is going to come with different shapes, and this is going to take a little bit of practice before you get that perfect shape of the leaf, but this is a great way to practice that. So just keep going, and some of the leaves are facing downward, as you can see, and some on the up top are facing up. So depending on the angle of your flower and the leaves coming out from that stem, you're going to change the angle of your leaf as well. And again, keep the water, keep a little bit of watery consistency, because that's the style of this painting. It's as you can see, that leaf I just did with a ton of water, you just naturally end up having beautiful shades in the leaf without having to go back and forth too much. So make sure you fill the brush with a lot of water. And for these two leaves that I just did, I'm using two different strokes, one to do the bigger stroke and then another one to do a smaller stroke on the side. So you can either do just one stroke or you could do a couple of strokes and give a little bit of that white space in between the leaves. And you can always come back and touch up the leaves a little bit if you think they look very flat and if you want to add a little bit more color to it. Now I'm mixing a different shade of green. Here I'm trying to get a little bit of a sap green. So I'm using my cad yellow deep with ultramarine blue, so you get those golden, beautiful golden leaves. Just to show that, there are some leaves which are starting to wilt, and then you just want to add a little bit of few of those, and it just gives a very nice balance of color in your painting. So I just dropped a few here and there. And anytime you add these leaves, make sure that you're adding them in a well-balanced manner, so your painting has colors balanced evenly. Voila, there's your beautiful painting.